I've seen anti-Christian violence in India, been in the midst of it. I've been in the midst of anti-Sikh violence and on anti-Muslim violence. I'm saying these things.
When you protested against Babri Masjid, the demolition, did people join you?
We began our protests there, and in no time these right-wing Hindutva elements came, attacked us, they tore our placards, they also beat me up. There has been a steady rise of fascism in India, and this fascism takes the name of religion.
How do you look at the authoritarian phase of our country?
Several activists, human rights defenders, several journalists have been put behind bars. How can I ensure that I am dutiful if you're not able to guarantee? A friend of mine and others, Umar Khalid, has already finished 5 years in jail.
How do you think media is playing its role in today's time?
Media is the fourth pillar. There are three things happening to media today. Media, as we say, Godified. It's become black. By standing up for truth and justice, if you have to be critical of the powers that are, about the powerful, about the vested interests, about the politicians, so be it. There is the classic example of the Cedric Prakash, a journalist from Kerala, who went to Hathras to do that story on the rape and
Don't you feel that Christians tend to remain in their comfort zones rather than voicing out, as Jesus himself was a very revolutionary of his time?
Yeah, I think we have to revisit the radical Jesus. In the life of Mary, we can take the Magnificat and sing it beautifully to beautiful tunes. But have you understood the meaning of the Magnificat? It's a song of protest. It's telling.
Hello everyone, welcome again to the Inspiring Heart Show. Today I'm very glad and happy that we have in the show a very special person, a prominent Jesuit of Gujarat province. Call him a very dedicated citizen of our country, Father Cedric Prakash. Father, I'm very happy that you have joined us in the podcast today. Warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Scholastic Romero. It's good to be here. I find it both a joy and privilege. And first of all, I want to congratulate you and all the Jesuits involved here at DNC for doing this IHS podcast. I think it is really excellent because this is the way I believe that communication should go, and that young scholastics, the future of the Society of Jesus, both in India for the assistancy and the world, I think you are showing us the right way as to how to communicate, how to evangelize in today's idiom, in today's world. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Father. That's so lovely and nice of you to compliment and to receive this compliment from someone who is very loud in communicating in the society at large. And I'm very moved to ask you this, that in the world that is filled with chaos, not many are ready to speak openly about injustice that is happening around. What gives you the courage and motivation to come forward and speak for people?
Yeah, today we live in a world which is divided, in which people are denigrated, demonized. It's a very fragmented world. It is brutalized, bruised, battered. People are killed for any and whatever reason. So it is important, I think, that people come out and voice what is truth, what is right, what is justice. And I think my inspiration comes definitely from Jesus, because Jesus, very especially during his public ministry, took a stand. He took a stand against all that was wrong and evil in his society. He hit out at the powerful, at the Herods and Pilates of his time. He hit out at the Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, those who thought they knew the law and interpreted it for their own good, like that classic case of the woman caught in adultery. And he ultimately wanted each one of us to be like him, to walk in his footsteps, and to be visible and to be vocal standing up for truth and justice in our world today.
For someone like you who advocates for justice, who voices out against fascism, someone who supports the needy, it is not a one day thing that all of a sudden one night you become someone like you are now. It must have been a process. How has been the process like?
I would think there are some milestones in my life. And one of the things is that I've been born and brought up in Bombay in a very pluralistic and diverse society. The school I went to, a diocesan school, Antonio de Souza, we had boys from every walk of life. Middle class, lower middle class, a few rich, some poor, parents with very simple backgrounds. But we were there as coming from Hindu, Muslim, Parsi, Jews, Jains, Christian background, different backgrounds. But we didn't have our religion up our sleeves. We played together as boys. We fought with each other as boys. There was nothing that divided us. We were united. And I still remember just before exams every year, all of us, boys and girls from the neighboring convent, used to go to that big statue of St. Anthony there in Gloria Church and all pray. We perhaps never studied for our exams, and we thought St. Anthony, who was the patron of hopeless cases, would help us pass the exams. We celebrated each other's festivals. We celebrated Eid, we celebrated Diwali, we celebrated the Parsi New Year, we celebrated Christmas. We celebrated together. Our games, our studies, our celebrations, our life were all interwoven. We belonged to a tapestry, a fabric that was rich, that was wealthy, but it helped us to grow. I went to St. Xavier's College in 1968. It was our centenary in 69. Towards the end of the centenary year, we had those big riots in Bombay, where one group of, say, Maharashtrians who belonged to a particular political party were attacking South Indians. Now, the South Indians brought to Bombay the best, say, Udupi hotels. They were attacking, they were burning. For the first time, I realized how people can be divided in the name of ethnicity, in the name of culture, in the name of religion. And then all throughout, later on, another watershed was the time I worked full-time in the IHS in 1972-73. Just before that, we had the Punamali Declaration. And in that we wrote, we are born into an unjust society and we will leave no stone unturned until we kind of change that society. That was way back, more than 50 years ago. But then there were moments in my life later on, I've seen the bloodshed in Northern Ireland, Catholics killing Protestants, Protestants killing Catholics. I've been in the midst. I've seen violence in Gujarat at various times, and especially the Gujarat carnage of 2002, when more than 2,000 Muslims were killed. I have seen violence earlier. The Christians were attacked in the Dangs, in South Gujarat and so on. So there has been a steady rise of fascism in India. And this fascism takes the name of religion. It is communalistic. And my desire all these years has been to fight against these fascist and fundamentalist forces that keep us divided in the name of religion. So over the years, I've been involved, engaged with civil society groups, with like-minded individuals and groups in order to curb, in order to stem that rot which is kind of eating into the rich fabric of our pluralistic and diverse society.
Do you think we as Indians have learned something from Gujarat riots?
I don't think I've been in the midst of it. Some very close friends of mine have been killed, okay? And we put together a citizens' tribunal, calling it crime against humanity. And there is enough of evidence to say that it was a politically motivated violence. And we call it a Gujarat carnage. We also use the word genocide, though many people feel the word is very strong. But it was a carefully orchestrated attack on the Muslims of Gujarat. And it had all the people who were involved in it had the impunity to do so, and they had the immunity to be doing so. Earlier, we saw, I was in Delhi doing my theology when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984, and we were in Vidya Jyoti and we saw how the Sikhs were massacred. And that is unfortunate. I've been in the midst of these violence. I've seen anti-Christian violence in India, been in the midst of it. I've been in the midst of anti-Sikh violence and on anti-Muslim violence. I'm saying these things should be lessons for us. Today in the 21st century, when we are supposed to be civilized people, we are dividing ourselves. We are demonizing another. We are denigrating the other. We are living in false beliefs, and with a lot of what Joseph Goebbels, the information minister of Hitler, said, tell a lie 1,000 times and people will tend to believe it. And this is what is happening in India. We will never learn. We know the truth, but we are afraid of the truth. A fear seems to have gripped many of us.
When you protested against Baba Masjid, the demolition, what was the response of people? Did people join you?
On the 6th of December 1992, unfortunately, the Babri Masjid was brought down. It was a black day in India. Very significantly, that is the death anniversary also of Ambedkar, the 6th of December. Some of us were very concerned. And together with a lot of my colleagues and friends, collaborators, Hindus, we decided to go on a protest. So we had permission to do so in front of the town hall from the police on the 10th of December, which very significantly happens to be the International Human Rights Day. We began our protests there, and in no time, the placards that we had made saying, we want peace. We're only asking for peace. Stop killing each other. We didn't want the people of Ahmedabad city to be killing the Muslims. What had the Muslims of Ahmedabad had to do with the Babri Masjid? Okay? And that it was brought down was a sad day. But here, apparently, people had the license to go and kill the Muslims, burn the houses. So we wanted peace. The moment we gathered together, these right-wing Hindutva elements came, attacked us, they tore up placards, they also beat me up, and so on, until one passerby rescued me. Pope Leo, in a recent interview, has said one of the great diseases just now is the polarization of society all over the world, and we need to be bridges. So the important thing is, how do we become bridges? Build bridges, become peace builders, bring peace, harmony, love, reconciliation, forgiveness to the others in society.
Father, you had also come across Pedro Arrupe when you were talking about JRS, Jesuit Refugee Center. How was your experience talking to him?
I've had some wonderful experiences with Pedro Arrupe. After I worked full-time in 72, 73 with the IHS, I went to Thésée in France. And the founder of the Thésée community, Brother Roger, was a great admirer of Father Pedro Arrupe. So when he came to Satyanilayam, that was the first time I experienced him, the Superior General of the Society. I happened to be the beadle in a very privileged position. At that time, it was the inauguration of Satyanilayam. And I casually mentioned to him, Father General, I was in Thésée and Brother Roger speaks very highly of you. And that night I was told by the rector at that time that the general wants to see me. About 20 minutes or half an hour, I was in his room, and he listened very, very, very carefully to me. I told him all my experiences in These, how I almost joined the These community. I realized in him was a person with a listening heart. The superior general listening to a scholastic who is just studying philosophy. That was for me a tremendous, in fact, path-breaking experience for me. Little later, I saw him in Rome after his stroke. Father Chanis, who was a Gujarat Jesuit, who was there working in the Courier, took me to see him. And I spent some time with him, praying with him and so on. But here I could see God in that man, a saint in that man. I believe Pedro Arrupe is one of my heroes, a man who has seen Hiroshima, who has seen the atom bomb, who fought against the bomb. When I was a novice, he gave to us as the superior general that mandate of faith and justice, like two sides of a coin. And I've been inspired by him and so on. And that is why later on, I spent 3 years with the Jesuit Refugee Service, mainly because of Pedro Arrupe in the Middle East, trying to respond to the cries of the refugees in the Middle East.
Father, today, when we look at our country, we have a lot of polarization that is very much prevalent there. In the name of UAPAs, many activists who dissent against all the injustice that is happening around are put behind bars. How do you look at the authoritarian phase of our country?
I think this is sad because Article 19 very clearly gives me freedom of speech and expression. And several activists, human rights defenders, several journalists have been put behind bars. Sedition charges have been made against them. And they have been treated literally as anti-nationals, non-citizens. Just say, today, a friend of mine and others, Umar Khalid, he has already finished 5 years in jail. And even today, the Supreme Court has adjourned his hearing to the 22nd. Now, the point is, Justice Krishna and several other Chief Justices of India have in the past said that bail and not jail has to be the guiding axiom for any judge. So how does a judge of a lower court refuse? Yeah? These are people who have been protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act, which is blatantly unconstitutional. You don't define citizenship in the name of religion. Okay? They have been protesting. And now they are regarded as anti-national. Umar Khalid, for one, is a JNU product, a top intellectual of the country. He believes in the Constitution, and there is not a shred of evidence. We have had the Bhima Koregaon conspiracy case. Our own Jesuit brother, Father Stan Swami, was arrested on the 8th of October 2020, and then in 2021, on the 5th of July, he dies in jail, okay, while still being incarcerated. Till today, the courts have not declared him innocent when there's not a shred of evidence against him. So anyone who takes a stand for truth and justice, my own colleague Tista Setalvad had framed up charges just because she took on the government of Gujarat for being responsible for the killing of so many Muslims in Gujarat in 2002. And now she's on bail, but she constantly has to come to Ahmedabad to be able to appear before court just to sign the fact that she has to make an appearance in court. Now, this is ridiculous. This is inhuman. This is anti-constitutional. It goes against the grain of the fundamental rights that have been granted to any citizen of the country. Democracy is about freedom and duties, I agree, about rights and duties. But how can I ensure that I am dutiful if you're not able to guarantee the fundamental rights that are basically mine as a citizen of the country. The right to dissent is important, and this we have denied several eminent citizens, journalists, writers of the country.
Media is considered one of the fourth pillars of our government, our country. How do you think media is playing its role in today's time? Lately, there was a news where one of the top influencers have been asked to remove some of their content from social media just because they were dissenting their voices against injustice. How do you look at the media's role today?
Yeah, I think, as you rightly say, media is the fourth pillar of any democracy, and media has to be guaranteed that freedom of speech and expression. There are three things happening to media today. Media, as we say, Godified. It's become lapdog because they are corporatized, they are co-opted, and they have been corrupted. And I think we have to see a lot of the mainstream media. Fortunately, we have alternative media. We have social media. Now, a lot of influencers today, those who took on one of the corporate giants of the country, who's known for his corruption, okay, have been asked by a court to take down all their videos and all their podcasts and all what they have said about that particular person. I'm saying this is ridiculous. We have a right to criticize, and the duty of the media is to be objective as possible, to be as impartial as possible, to always stand up for truth and justice. By standing up for truth and justice, if you have to be critical of the powers that are, about the powerful, about the vested interests, about the politicians, so be it. But don't harass them, don't intimidate them, don't put them behind bars. There is the classic example of the Cedric Prakash, a journalist from Kerala, who went to Hathras to do that story on the rape, and fictitious charges were framed on him. Okay? And you cannot do this. You cannot hound the media. Corporate houses, as we know, have bought up a lot of the mainstream media, and today a lot of the mainstream media, both in the print and electronic media, just kind of provide us stories, headlines, narratives which are blatantly false or which speak of half-truths. You have to look even at the headlines of many of the national print media, whether it is the vernacular or in the English. Fortunately, we have great alternative media, which they have been hounding and harassing them too, but they have still been able to get away with things and to provide us with the truth. That is the role of media, to speak up for truth, for justice, for what is right all the time.
I also see this phenomena where when there is a prominent news, like Rahul Gandhi revealed that vote chori,
Yeah.
it ran in media for some time, and all of a sudden there is a fluctuation.
Yeah.
The media is taking coverage of what is happening in an actress life or actor's life, or what is happening in a sports. Just what I believe, they are trying to put this under the carpet.
Yeah.
The mainstream news have been put under carpet, and something that is very menial is brought into limelight. How do you look at it?
Manipulation is the name of the game. How do you defocus? How do you change the narrative? Just say, today I've been checking the daily newspapers. You're in the same house where you live. And yesterday, Rahul Gandhi gave a very important press conference, a media conference, of how names can be deleted using some kind of a spyware or something. By outside numbers, you can delete, you can add names and so on. He gave it with evidence, with hard facts and so on, which cannot even be contested. Okay? Otherwise, the Election Commission should have contested it. Now, I was looking at the media, the headlines. Some media, this is a national story because it goes against the grain of democracy. It deprives me of my right of citizenship, my right to elect the candidate of my choice. If my name is deleted, my name is not found in electoral rolls. But you look at the headlines. from Godified media to, fortunately, there have been some podcasts, some alternative media that has been highlighting it. So they change the narrative. They highlight what may be something that is happening in the filmy world, some sports. Then cricket is definitely an obsession in the country. Okay, we don't realize that it was a colonial vestige too. But they very cleverly and manipulatively change the narrative, change the focus, and that is what we'd like to challenge the media. Why don't they take a fact to its logical end, to its consequence? You know, a murder, a rape suddenly gets headlines of no consequence.
Do you think things becoming corporate is also a biggest influencer in this game? And when I'm talking about things becoming corporate, the recent news on Bhagalpur, what happened in Bhagalpur, where 1050 acres of land, 1050 acres of land is given to well-known company just for a 1 rupee per year price.
Unfortunately, we have the corporatization of the country, the nation, and the privatization. While a certain amount of liberalism is good, okay, and globalization is a phenomenon that we need to deal with, and it's a reality. While there are good corporates, there are also corporates that have been buying up governments, systems, procedures for their own profits. Let's say the military industrial complex, the big arms and ammunition industry, and even American presidents have spoken against them. How they control economies and who controls them. And now we have certain giant corporate houses who will sing the pains, the praises of those in power, okay, but for their own profits, because they can get what they want at, as you gave the instances of Bhagalpur, at throwaway prices. They can establish huge mega companies in mega industries, and the human being, the ordinary worker, like during the Industrial Revolution, becomes the cog in the machine. What is happening is that they can profit, but as we see what is happening in India today, the vast majority of our people are becoming poorer and poorer, while a few control a lot of the resources and the money power of the country.
When you speak all these things, I'm curious to ask you, when you speak about, people in power, when you speak about injustice that is happening, when you advocate for justice, do you receive life threats?
What happens when you take on the powerful is that it's not easy at various levels. It's not easy within the society. People feel uncomfortable with your presence. People feel that because of you, their FCRA or their privileges and so on is being denied.
You mean you're talking about in the society of Jesus?
In the society of Jesus. In outside world, you're dealing with people who have used our institutions, who have studied in our institutions, whom we have trained, who have become the powerful today. You're talking about those whom we have educated. As Stan Swami himself was speaking about those whom we have educated. We need to ask, whom are we educating and for what? And ultimately, you're talking about a system which is corrupt, which is unjust, which will do anything to harm you, anything to negate you, anything to denigrate you. And they have done it. They have done it to politicians who are on the other side, and they said, come to us, and ours is a washing machine, and everything will be all right, even if you have cases filed against you while you are in the other party. So yes, I've had death threats. That is common knowledge. That is, I've had my center that was attacked, all my computer, all my hardware and so on was taken away. Police complaints are fine. That is all gone on record. Civil society came came to my assistance, took a stand against. False cases have been filed against me for a talk I gave in London at the SOAS. But this, I believe, is not the main thing. These are occupational hazards, and I would not like this to make the most important part either of me or of any advocacy initiative that is done by anyone at any time. One has to face the risks, one has to face the consequences.
Father, there is a thin line between being a peaceful community and being in your own rosy-cozy atmosphere. Don't you feel that Christians tend to remain in their comfort zones rather than voicing out? Jesus himself was a very revolutionary of his time. Don't you feel that we are deceiving ourselves of remaining in the peaceful atmosphere, whereas in truth, we are actually remaining in our comfort zones?
Yeah, I think we have to revisit the radical Jesus, Christ the Liberator, the Transformer. We have to visit Mary, the mother of Jesus, who was truly a rebel, a revolutionary. Let's say in the life of Mary, we can take the Magnificat and sing it beautifully to beautiful tunes and feel happy about it. It can be a soothing balm. I think that's a valid way that we sing the Magnificat. There is no quarrel about that. But have you understood the meaning of the Magnificat? It's a song of protest. It's a song of not merely praise, petition. It's telling Yahweh God that he has brought down the powerful from their thrones and exalted the lowly of hearts. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent away the rich empty. This is a powerful song of protest which Mary sings. What about the life of Jesus? Why does he say no to Satan in the desert, to power, to privilege, to pride, to possessions, to position, and also to patriarchy? He says no. Then he comes down to the synagogue, opened the scroll from the book of Isaiah, and he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me." When is the Spirit of the Lord upon me? Very clearly, when I give sight to the blinds, when I set free the prisoners, when I help the downtrodden to come up. Is a very clear mandate. What about the last judgment? What about the Beatitudes? This is what scripture tells us. Now, I can take the scripture, even the devil quotes scripture, and make it a nice, rosy, cozy comfort zone, as you say. And I can say, all is well with me, and so all is well with the world. I am at kind of peace with myself. No. Do we realize what is happening to the poorest of the poor, to the dying destitute, to those who are on the peripheries of our society, those who have nowhere to go, those who need a shelter? Why is that whole literally admonition, that exhortation of the last judgment given to us by Jesus? Lord, when did I see you hungry or naked or thirsty or in prison? And Jesus very clearly says, unless you did it or did not do it to the least of my sisters or brothers, you did it or did not do it unto me. Are we taking it seriously? So the point is, we as Christians have a call to be the alter Christus, the other Christ in today's world, to ensure that the face of Jesus is seen in the least of our sisters and brothers.
Now I remember what Stands For Me said, "I am not a silent spectator."
Yes, I'm not a silent spectator, he said.
Not only him, there are people like you, people like Arundhati Roy,
Yeah.
through her writing, through her oration, strongly brings about advocating for justice, advocating for peace. Now, Arundhati Roy has contributed a lot to our society and the world at large. How do you look at her contribution?
See, for me, I have a tremendous admiration and even love for Arundhati. We have been close friends for the last many years. I have almost every book that she has written with beautiful messages written to me. And whenever possible, I spend some value time with her. There are many women who have inspired me in my life. Arundhati is definitely one woman. She has not had an easy life. She has had a hard life, and she has come up the hard way. And in spite of being trained as an architect and so on, she had finally found her literary vocation in being a writer. And a writer, she's basically a writer. She doesn't even say, I don't like to be called activist. She told me in one of the open interviews I had with her in Kerala some time ago. Through her books, beginning with The God of Small Things and others, a write-up Azadi, which has been banned by the Jammu and Kashmir administration, and to her latest book on her mother, Mother Mary Come to Me. She has basically taken on the system with courage. She has spoken on behalf of the helpless, the victims, the exploited, the excluded, the marginalized of our society. And third, she has created synergies, been in solidarity with any amount of women and men across the world. She's been having now, with a book launch in different parts of the world, she's having rave audiences, people who are applauding her. Indian media will not highlight it, but a lot of the international media is highlighting it. She has done. So a brave woman, a courageous woman, a woman who is empathetic. She is using her powers, her literary acumen, to be able to touch the pulse of not merely of the country, but try to awaken the conscience of a people who have become numb, who have become I don't care, who say, okay, as long as it doesn't happen to me, it does not matter. She's awakening that conscience. She's a great woman of our times.
I feel very glad that people like you, Arundhati Roy, and many other activists are creating a storm in our country. You also know that our country is taking a fascist streak. How do you talk to the youth today or the people of our country today to be aware of certain things?
The year I was in the ICUF, we launched a program called Know India, KNOW, Know India, in which we wanted a lot of young men and women in college or just having finished college to spend some time with the excluded, the exploited, those on the peripheries of the society, in the slums, in the villages. And there are lots of people who are jailed with Stan Swami, like Vernon Gonsalves, Arun Ferreira, the IHS, who went and lived in the midst of the people and learnt a lot from them. So the point is, can you go and challenge to the youth of today? Today we are numbing our youth, the church, by teaching them and asking them to say loud praise and shout. Jesus never wanted the hallelujahs. That is a drug. That is wrong. There is so much of unemployment. There is so much of problems that literally besiege the youth of today. So how do we show them the way? So the way is very clearly is, first of all, what Viktor Frankl wrote, at the time when he was in prison, man's search for meaning. How do we provide our youth the ability, the courage to search for meaning in their life? And that is the first part. So the point is, through exposure, asking them to go to the slums, to the villages and so on. The second is to create an intellectual caliber, fiber among the youth of the country, which I think many of us are failing to do. To ask them to analyze what is happening in society, get through the process and arrive at a discerned decision. What do I want to do with my studies? What am I becoming? Perhaps a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or a computer specialist, an IT specialist. What am I becoming that for? Is it maybe to serve for the common good, to serve the others, to serve society? Or is it merely for my own selfishness? To rise up in career, to gain money is definitely not a bad thing. Having a comfortable life, having a decent life, not living in penury or starvation or beggar and so on. I think that is important. But how do you ensure that what I have, what I earn, is also used for the betterment of my society? That I reach out, I spend time with others. And the final thing where youth are concerned is we need to make them reflect prayerfully. That is why St. Ignatius of Loyola gave us the examen twice a day, to examine oneself, in the afternoons, before I go to sleep, to review any prayer that I've made. So teach them how to pray. As Jesus has said, when you pray, go to your own room, close the doors. It is not about loud, cantankerous prayer, but about soft, meaningful, like Moses in the burning bush, able to encounter Jesus in the fire, and truly like Ignis, to be able to radiate, to set our world on fire.
When you are talking about this, I was just taken aback to my college days where I was part of ICUF for a year or two. And our animator, Mr. Anup from Mangalore, he used to remind us that which you told in the beginning, that we are born in an unjust society and
we are determined to leave no stone unturned.
No stone unturned. You are very much into ICUF, you were into ICUF. And when you look at ICUF today, which is a kind of stagnant, it's not that powerful movement as it was earlier. If you have to give one message to the ICUFers today, so as how to revive the spirit of ICUF as it was before, what would that be?
My one message to the ICUF students of today, to the young men in the ICUF, and this I spoke at the beginning of the centenary year in 2024, and the closing of the centenary year in Loyola College, Chennai in 2025, is be awake. Be awake. Stop sleeping. Get out of your slumber. Be aware of what's happening to the country, what's happening to the people of our country, and act now. Act now. You cannot. ICUF is not a club. It's a movement. It's a movement, as we saw in the 70s and the 80s, that responded to the signs of the time, to the cries of the poor, to the cries of the environment, to the cries of what is happening in the country. And we need you for that. Right at the beginning in our old constitution, you have to be a praying community, an intellectually alert community, and a serving community. You ICUFers need to change things now.
And I feel very privileged today that like a stalwarts like you talk to us, grace us with your presence today. And I'm very happy, Father. Thank you so much for taking your time out to talk to people, to address some of the important issues that people face in our country, and especially to address the youth. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Romero. You too are a young Jesuit, a great Jesuit, and your colleagues who are doing this podcast. Thank you for listening to me. I really, as I told you, I was not aware it was going to be so long, but I hope what I say and what I've done in my life will in some small way touch someone, somewhere, somehow.